With me now is former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Saland. Jeremy, good morning to you. Let's start here with this denial. The president says, wasn't me, I didn't sign it, but of course we saw a signature. Is there any legal context where that denial is relevant?
It's really not relevant. I mean, it sounds like someone's using the auto pen, maybe. That was the big deal with Biden only days ago. And it sounds a little bit Alfred E. Newman-ish, what me worry here and let's blame someone else. Unequivocally, if he signed it and we just showed it, this is from the president's mouth to his hands, from his heart to his soul to that piece of paper. So this is the president's actions. This is moving forward and has moved forward because of him. Now, whether or not this was the dark of night, as the judge referenced, I don't know, but it moved forward, and it had to come from his mouth.
Okay, so let's pull that thread here, the dark of night, because I read that you sent a note to my producers that the rest of that inquiry from the judge, Judge Boasberg, about it being signed in the dark of night and why it might have happened that way, you see a focus and maybe an accusation against DOJ. What did you hear?
Well, the argument that they've made or seem to make is, well, listen, you may have officiated this and you may have a judge had said it has to halt and stop, but we were waiting for or believe there needed to be that officially signed document or that actual physical order had to be issued. That's really a hogwash argument. I mean, think about this rationally. Think about it the other way. Would the DOJ say that if a judge said to a defendant, whether civilly or criminally, you can't do something, you can't spend these dollars, you can't leave this country, you have to comply with my order, and the defendant or an accused or another litigant did not do so, they would be up in arms. That holds no water, it holds no credibility, and the judge said, one of the only things that you have in this world is your credibility. Use it wisely. That's shot. They shot that credibility with that response, in my opinion.
Let's listen to the president yesterday in the Oval.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says, and that's what our country needs.
Is that what the law says? I mean, the suggestion that there is no judicial oversight on this.
These are co-equal branches. They have different roles, but the executive branch is not the dictatorship branch. That's not how it works. And you still have to produce that evidence. And the way you challenge that, if a judge says you have to do something, is an appeal. It's certainly not an impeachment. So no, Trump is wrong, and all of those who are doing his bidding are wrong. They have a right to pursue creatively, even arguably, certain ways. And we can all agree that getting bad actors out of this country is a good thing, meaning drug dealers and gang members. But that's the end is there, but the means have to be proper. And the Aliens Act, the Enemy of the Aliens Act, allows the government in a time of war, and when there's an incursion, to say time out and pause and get rid of due process. And you end up having people, as possibly here has been alleged, like a soccer player who had a soccer tattoo, who were mistaken to be shipped off to a third-party country, sitting in a prison without that due process. So there's a right, but now is not that time for that right, and this law is not right law to do so.
So let's take this a few steps down the road. Judge Boasberg says that he's going to get to the bottom of whether his order was violated and who violated it. If there is a contempt order, who enforces that? Is that DOJ, those U.S. Marshals?
This is the real interesting question, Victor. When you hear people say there's this constitutional crisis, well, what do you do when the highest law in the land, again, they're still co-equals, but the highest law in the land coming from the president himself or Mark Rubio, because the president didn't know, that's another story again. What do you do? Who do you hold in contempt? How do you sanction that person? Who do you sanction? What is the process? It's a difficult one to figure out how you do that. So that's why, in part, I think there's been pushing off, saying, I'm going to give you another chance, give you another chance. But, the response very well may be to stop and continue to halt these deportations. But what that punishment is, we haven't dealt with it before.
Yeah, and these could be at least, Department of Justice lawyers. And let's listen to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and how she is characterizing what the judge has done thus far.
And this has been a pattern with these liberal judges. This judge had no right to do that. They're meddling in foreign affairs. They're meddling in our government. And the question should be, why is a judge trying to protect terrorists who have invaded our country over American citizens?
up to her department to enforce whatever the judge determines is the consequence for violation of the order. It doesn't sound like she's going to go for it.
No, Victor, and she and Donald Trump are really teaching a master class on how to move the ball, and that is really terrifying. It's not about a judge saying, I'm putting terrorists before Americans. No. What the judge is doing is I'm putting America first, meaning I am ensuring or doing what I can to make sure that the rules, laws upheld. I'm not protecting terrorists or bad actors or drug dealers or people in gangs. I'm upholding the rule of law. There's one other thing that she said. She made a comment about, I believe it was her, not the president, about having 200 some odd reasons be safer because of these people are out of the country. But there's one reason we're not safer is because this is an abuse of the law on its face, and she is attacking the judge for doing his job to make sure that law is followed, the Constitution is followed. That is number one.
All right, they'll be back in court on Tuesday. Jeremy Saland, thanks so much. This morning, London's Heathrow Airport is